Hi, I'm Carla, ambassador with Hunt to Eat, and today I'm going to show you how to slaughter and butcher a rabbit. We're going to be working with a domestic rabbit today, but this will absolutely translate to hunted rabbits if you're out in the field. And rabbits are a great entry-level animal, so if you've never slaughtered or butchered meat before, then this is a perfect animal to start with. It's a great way to get to know the anatomy of mammals on a really small and accessible scale. We're going to start by getting everything we need laid out and ready to go. So of course we're going to need a knife. It's a small animal, so a paring knife in this case works great. I like to keep a knife sharpener around just in case I need to touch up the blade at any time during the process. And I have a couple of bags. I have one that we're going to put waste products in, one for the organs we're going to eat, and one last bag for the hides, because I might set those aside and see if I want to tan them later. I also like to wear gloves when I'm working. You don't have to, but I do think it's kind of nice to be able to rip your gloves off and have clean hands in a hurry if you have a situation that comes up where that's helpful. And finally, we have some rope. We're going to need to hang the rabbit up to butcher it. So I like to use this handy dandy baling twine, but you can really use anything that you have. Finally, we're going to need a horizontal place to hang the rabbit up. So I'm going to go ahead and use our laundry line here, but you can use a tree branch or whatever you can put a rope around. So we're going to get our ropes hung where we're going to want to hang our rabbit, and we're going to have a rope for each back foot. So about, they're going to be hanging down from here. So, wherever height you're comfortable with, and we're going to put in slip knots, which is a really handy thing to use for hanging the back legs. So we're going to start by making a U, and we're going to make a loop around, and then we're going to take the loop that we just made and wind our very fraying baling twine several times through that. Maybe baling twine's not the best, most forgiving option here. There we go. So I went around 3 times, and now we're going to go ahead and tighten it. And you can see when I pull down, it just gets really tight, but it's also really easy to untighten so you can get the rabbit out easier later. So the rabbits that we're going to use for today's demonstration are domestic rabbits raised by a good friend of mine. If you're a hunter, most of the time you're going to end up with your rabbits already dead, but in this case we are going to slaughter them here on the farm. The way that I'm going to do it is with a pellet gun. This is just a really cheap, simple pump pellet gun, and these are the pellets that go with it. And we're basically going to do one shot from into the back of the head, just imagining a diagonal line from the base of where the ears end straight forward to the bottom of the mouth. And it's quick, it's painless. There are plenty of other ways to dispatch a rabbit. You'll hear a lot about cervical dislocation or the broomstick method, and I've done it before. It works great. I have just found personally, I often slaughter by myself. And when you're doing the broomstick method, it can be a lot to manage. So by myself, this is the quickest and easiest way that I have found to do it. So just one note before I dispatch this rabbit. When I take the shot, it will be a quick and painless death. But what ends up happening is it'll look like he goes into kind of a seizure, and there'll be a lot of kicking, a lot of sudden movement. He's not alive. That is just a completely normal, natural phenomenon, so I just don't want anybody to be worried when they see what's about to happen that this wasn't quick and painless. Okay, so once the rabbit is done kicking, we'll go ahead and bring it over to where we're going to hang it, and we'll just fit each leg through our slip knots here, and we'll cinch it down right where that ankle is. And we're going to get our knife, and we're going to start skinning just under our rope. And we're going to cut just through the fur a little bit into the skin. We're trying to get the skin and avoid hitting the meat. is a little bit difficult when don't have a lot of room for error when you're this high up in the leg, but do your best. I'm just gonna go around in a circle on both sides. And you'll see the skin starts to pull back from the meat. We're gonna take our knife and flip it so the blade is facing us, and just run it with the tip down, kind of like in a V shape down the leg, and just try not to poke into your meat. And we'll come down the other side. Almost to the center. I'm going to come around the back now, and I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to put it under the skin right between the tail and the anus. It can be a little hard to see through all the fur, but it's in there. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut the tail off. It's a small enough bone that you could just cut straight through it. We'll keep loosening the skin up. On really young animals, the skin comes off super easy. Some of the older animals might be a little bit more difficult, but just use the knife as you need to. So coming around the front, I'm going to basically pull the fur here toward me, and I'm going to just kind of sneak in here with the knife. And you can, if you look into the light, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see right through where the hide is. So I'm just going to go in there, come straight up. I'm going to leave this awkward little bit of fur here, but we'll come back to that. Theoretically, you could just start pulling this down. I like to help it a little bit more with a knife just around the abdominal area, because if you pull too hard and you open that abdomen and you're not ready for the guts to come out, it could be a little annoying. Oops, see, there we go. I didn't really mean to do that. You can pull on this pretty hard when you're down here too. So I'm going to come in at the elbows, set my knife down, just help those guys along. When you pull the front legs off of the hide, you're going to end up with a little tuft of fur like that. It's no big deal, you'll cut that off anyway. Same thing, other side. And now we're down at the head. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of feel around for the base of the skull and just give it a little bit of a cut. And we will take the head, hold the body, give it a little twist, and it'll come right off. We'll go ahead and set the hide aside. So we're going to start with trying to loosen up the area around the anus. And you get a little personal with your rabbit friend when you're in here. And there's a bone right here, so you can't cut all the way through that. But your goal is just to loosen this up. So see, there's a little bit of connective tissue there still. We're just going to very carefully pull that off, and there we go. That's looking nice and loose. And we'll set our little fur tuft back there. Come around to the front, and now we're going to go ahead and open this. Now you want to make sure you're going in, sharp part of the knife pointed toward you, angled to be pretty in line with the skin, and we'll start opening it up. I like to stick my fingers in here and just use them as a way to push everything back, because especially as you get down toward the bottom, it's going to get pretty crowded in here. So we've got this little water balloon looking guy is our bladder. So we're going to want to make sure we don't pierce that, we don't allow it to open up into the meat. So I like to just kind of go in behind it. And you're going to hopefully loosen this up enough so where you can just kind of pop that in and out. I'm going to take my little awkward tuft of fur and just shove it on through to the other side. And then this stuff will just peel away from the back. And here is the diaphragm area. You just got to get your thumb in there and open that up, and you'll find the lungs. And you can just grab whatever you can and pull it out. So the liver is delicious, so we're going to go ahead and save that. You'll see a little dark green sac embedded in the liver. That's a bile duct. We definitely don't want that in our liver, and we definitely don't want to pierce it. So we're going to really carefully just get our knife under it and cut it out. And it's worth sacrificing a little bit of liver to avoid poking that. So we've got just a little bit more stuff in here. We got the little bit more lung and the heart. Go ahead and save the heart to eat as well. And then you'll just want to feel around a little bit and see if you've left anything else behind, but this feels good. So we're going to take our front feet off, and you'll see that they naturally bend at a certain point. So you just take your knife and run it along where the natural bend is. So you're not trying to cut all the way through the bone with your knife, you're just trying to cut the ligaments. And then once you have the ligaments cut, you can kind of just give it a twist and it'll come right off. For the back legs, we're just going to remove this whole foot part. So you'll take some clippers or some strong kitchen shears. It really doesn't take much to get through the bone, and go up as high as you can and just cut that off. And the ligament will stay there for a minute, so you don't really have to worry about it falling. We'll come back with our knife, cut that ligament, and this rabbit is ready to rest until we're ready to either cook it or part it out. Now you'll see right now the rabbit is really floppy in the joints. It's going to go through a process of rigor mortis, so it's going to get really stiff. You don't want to put it in the freezer or cook it while it's going through that process. So we'll go ahead and put it in the fridge at a safe temperature, above freezing, below 40, until it's back to being loose, and then it'll be ready to cook.